I'm just at home in the shed and I'm having a few beers, and it's the best time to tie a few live bait rigs when you want to troll up some mackerel. I'm going to show you what I think is the best and easiest way to tie up a live bait rig. So just starting off with some single strand stainless wire, around 50 to 80 pound. Some stainless wire. I've just cut a section of that on, probably around about 30 or 40 centimetres long. Then take a black swivel. I like to go with a black one because that actually attaches to your monofilament line. Just going to bend that over then on the swivel. So it looks a little like that. Just going to start to do a haywire twist. Start twisting that. I've got about 3 or 4 twists in it. I like to use pliers when I tie mine, so got the haywire twist done. Just going to do some barrel rolls on that. 3 or 4 barrel rolls. There's plenty. The whole idea is just to try and keep everything nice and compact. We just want to break that wire off there, so I put a little crank in it like that. Pliers. Got a little crank in it. I'll just twist my crank, give her a little wiggle. Twist my crank again. What that does is it just gives a nice clean finish with no line to catch on. Let's bend that back straight with my pliers. There we go, I've got the swivel tied on now. So the next is attaching a hook. We just want to work out how long we want to basically have the bite protection before we attach the main hook, which goes in the mouth of the bait. So thinking about it, we probably don't need any more than 70 or 80 mils, so that's about where I'm going to go. Once again, I believe we should keep everything nice and compact. Today I'm just going to use a mustard hoodlum live bait hook. Once again, fairly small profile hook, trying to keep that bait looking as natural as possible in the water. When I attach that hook into the bait, I like to put it in the bait's nose. Rather than feeding the hook into the bait, I'll put a rubber band through the bait with a bait needle and just get the hook and twist it into the rubber band, so the hook is actually, if that's the fish's nose, the hook is actually sitting just there, totally exposed like that in the fish. So that's plenty big enough. So we just take that, feed that onto there, and once again just do our haywire twist barrel rolls that I've set up. Haywire twist. Up 3 or 4 turns. Barrel rolls to finish that, and once again just make that little crank handle. Bit of a wiggle. All I'm doing with that crank is just spinning the wire about 180 degrees. Itself. Doesn't break, I'll just give it another similar twist and eventually it'll break, and once again we've got a really nice neat finish. So we've got our main hook on there ready to go. What we want to do is we want to attach a stinger hook on the back of that. This will sit in the nose of the fish, and back here we'll be able to just attach a little, here's one here, a little treble right on the fish's tail. So I make a few of these up at different lengths, sometimes little short ones for smaller baits. You might want one made up for a longer bait. Because what's going to happen is a mackerel's going to come in, he's not always going to grab the head of the fish, most often he'll grab the tail, and a lot of times it'll actually be this little stinger that pins that fish. In this case, it's just the Owner ST56 in about a size 1 or even size 2, right up to 2.0. I think this one's a 1.0 or actually a 2.0, that hook there. So you can get away with all different sizes. I'm going to attach that with multi-strand wire, and the reason I use multi-strand rather than the single strand is it just gives it a little bit more freedom of movement. It's more flexible than the single strand wire. Just trying to find an end on it here. So there's an end. Okay. So I'll start off with a fair bit more than what I need. I might actually just cut that now. rather than later. And what I do is I just take my hook and I'm going to feed that through there like that. I'm going to tie a Flemish eye on this, which makes the whole rig a lot stronger. So it's a granny knot. Pass back through the eye after tying one granny knot. And then just twist that another one. So it's like a granny knot that you pass through twice, and when you pull that up, it makes what's called a Flemish eye, and by the time we put a crimp on that, there's going to be very little chance of it slipping. So I take my crimp, feed it down, and just pop the other end of the crimp and slide it up. Before, and then we'll just take our crimping pliers and we'll nip that up. Give it a good hard bang like that. It's looking beautiful. What you can actually do to even make more security is you can roll that line around there like that. Because it's a nylon coated multi-strand wire, throw a bit of heat into it until you just see it start to melt. There we go. That's all melted together, and I'll just trim this tag end off. So there we go. So now what we've got is our little toe point swivel. We're starting to get our wire here. What we need to do now is work out how far back we want that stinger hook position for the, to go on the fish's tail. So in this situation, I'm going to go around about 12, 15 centimetres. It's sort of in between, about 13 centimetres. So that's going to get it into the back of like a slimy mackerel or a yakka. Just put a little bend in that like that, just so that I can recognise that spot. Now try and find my hook. There it is. This time I have to put my crimp on first. Slide the crimp down, and then I'll just tie that same Flemish eye in the treble. Now just take my nylon wire, feed it through the crimp, slide the crimp right up. Now the crimp's up, so I'll just give that a nice crimp there with the pliers again, give it a good hard one. Once again, I'll also go to the extra trouble of making sure there's going to be no flaw in this rig. I'll just double a bit of that wire up for about 4 centimetres or so. Just wait until it melts with the lighter. And we'll trim that up. We'll take a look at the finished rig. There we go. It has taken a little while to make that rig, and that's why I like to sit at home and make them in the shed rather than having to do it when you're out there fishing, because it does take a bit of time and a bit of concentration, so it's much easier to do it at home. So what we've got there goes from this swivel right through to that main hook, which is going to be rubber banded into the nose of the fish, or even through the eye sockets. I like to go through the nostrils of the fish. That way they can swim away nice and happily. And that just pins in the tail of the fish, just around that anal fin, just right in under the bum of that. And away we go. That's going to catch a mackerel for sure. Just need to catch some bait, whack on that, and we'll be in action. Time for another stubby. Now I'm just going to go one step further with that live bait rig, and I will actually show you how you would attach it to a live fish. Just have to use your imagination a little bit. This is a live fish. So what we do is I take a bait needle, it's just a piece of stainless wire, rubber band. Stainless wire is actually doubled over on the end, so as I feed this back up in there, see it goes into a little thing like that, so that just holds my rubber band in place. What we then do is we just pass this just through the fish's nostril sort of section, round about there, like that, passing it through, and pull that rubber band through until it's halfway through. Take our little bait needle back out. We then take our hook, our main hook, we pass it through one end of the rubber band, you can give it a couple of twists then if you like. We then pass it through the other end of the rubber band. And what we do is we either twist the bait or you twist your hook around until she's all nice and tight, and then just pass it through that section just there. Like that, pull it up. So there we go. Sort all this mess out. Now, the swivel is of course tied to our main line. So there we've got a little bait flicking around. We just take this section here and we'll pin that right in the anal fin of the fish, just around about there, somewhere like that. So we can see this soft plastic isn't quite big enough. We'd be using a slightly bigger bait for this rig, because we want that just to be a little bit tighter just there, something like that back to the hook. We've got a bit more bow in it. That just gives you an idea of how I actually rig that live bait up. The beauty of this, having this hook up here through the nostrils, the fish can just swim around with his mouth open just as he would normally as we're towing him along, so there's plenty of oxygen going through his mouth. He can use his mouth properly, just waiting for some big critter to come along and snatch him and eat him up. A mouth full of hooks, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be fish on. Geez, I think I need to go fishing, stuff this bait rig and stuff.